Hello friends, this is Srimant Elgave and you are learning ASP.NET MVC5 tutorial step by step. So this is part 4 and in this tutorial we are going to understand action method in ASP.NET MVC5. So in this tutorial we are going to learn what is action method in MVC5, type of action method, how to restrict the action method, how to call the action method, and how to change the default action method, and also we are going to understand how the default action get executed. So these all are the points we are going to understand in this tutorial. So first is action method. So what is action method in MVC? Action method must be a public method. So we will go with the programmatically. So in order to understand the programmatically, so please create one project having name MVC5 action method demo. So if you are new with how to create the project in Visual Studio 2017 or 15, so you can watch my part 3 of this series. So this will be helpful to create the application in Visual Studio 2017. So after creating the application, right click on the controller, click on add, go to click on the controller, and so we will create one empty controller having the name home controller. So you can see the default is index method is get created by default automatically. So every action method is a public, and inside the controller every public method is an action method. So action method must be a public method, and action method cannot be a private or protected method. So let's go with practically. So if you provide the private or protected, then it can be considered as a non-action method. So to understand what we can do, we will provide some string welcome to programming with Sri. So this is a simple message we have written first. So to execute each and every times, or to run the application each and every times, so what we can do, we will create a virtual directory for this. To create the virtual directory, right click on the project, go to the property, and so you can find out, click on the web, and so default is IIS Express. So change the local IIS and click on the create virtual directory. So it will display one message, the virtual directory was created successfully. Save this, copy this URL and directly, so first build the application. First build the application, build is succeeded, then you can paste the virtual directory URL into the browser and press the enter. So you can see the message is displayed, welcome to programming with Sri. So this is an public method. So what we can do, we will provide the private and build the application. So build succeeded, so we will execute. So you can see it will throw an error. So we cannot provide the private or protected access modifier to the action method. So you can see the resource cannot be found. So this error message is displayed. So the private and protected access modifier is not valid for the action method. So if you provide the protected, the same exception is displayed on the browser. Action method cannot overloaded. So we cannot overload the action method. So to understand what we can do, So we will override the index method, and let's check is it possible to override the action method in the MVC or not. So we will create one more index method which having the ID parameter, and simply we will bind the ID to the string. So you can see we have created the two index method same, and which having the integer as a parameter. So first build the application. Yeah, build succeeded, and let's go with the browser and execute the application, and let's check. So we cannot overload the action method, so it will throw an exception. The current request for the action that is the index on a controller type home controller is ambiguous between the following action method, so it will provide the ambiguity error. So the ambiguity between the index and index, second is the index which having the int 32 as a parameter. So overloading is not possible in action method. Action method cannot be a static method, so we cannot provide the static keyword to an action method. So if you provide the static keyword, then it will throw an error. So first provide the static keyword public static string index and build the application and execute the application. So you can see the resource cannot be found, the exception is displayed, the resource cannot be found. So we cannot provide the static keyword to an action method. Action method cannot contain ref and out keyword, so we cannot provide the ref and out keyword as a parameter to an action method. So if you try to provide the ref and out keyword to an action method, then it will throw an error. So we will check, we will provide the ref integer ID, and we will check first, build our application, and we will go with the programmatically and understand is it possible the ref keyword as a parameter to an action method or not. So we can pass the index slash id is a 1, and we can see. So we can check. So you can see cannot call action method system.string.int32 by ref on controller. The controller name is the home controller. Why? Because the parameter int32 id is passed by reference. So the ref keyword is a reference type of variable, so we cannot pass the reference type of variable as a parameter into the action method. So if you try to provide the ref keyword, it will throw an error. So we will check for the out keyword also. So in order to work with out keyword, you need to remember before after providing the out keyword, we need to assign the value to an variable before leaving the method. So if you do not provide, then it will provide the compile time error. So first build the application, So build succeeded, and so we can run the same copy and paste, and we can execute the same index method passing one id as a parameter. Yeah, so you can see it will display the error, same error, the cannot call action method in 32 by ref. Why? Because the parameter in 32 id is passed by reference. So out is also a ref and out, both are the reference type of variable, so we cannot use the reference type of variable as a parameter into the action method. So if you try to provide the ref and out keyword as a parameter to an action method, so it will throw an error. So that's why we cannot pass the ref and out keyword as a parameter. Action result is a base class for all the result type of action method. So first we will remove the out keyword parameter. So if I use the partial view result to understand, and right click, go to the definition. So the partial view result is inherited from the view result base. Go to this definition and you can see the action result is the base class of all the action result. So the result type of action method. So you can see the different, for example, the content result, right click, go to definition, and you can see the action result is the base class. So the action result is a base class of all the type of action result. Every controller has at least one default action method, that is index. So if you create any controller like home controller, employee controller, meeting controller, student controller, then by default the index method is created automatically, and the every method inside the controller is by default a get method. So you can see here, so you can see the by default it is a get method. So the get keyword is also provided by default. So the get method is inside the home controller, and this is an index method. So you can create any controller. So we will check with the another controller. We will create one more controller to understand this concept. Right click on the controller, click on add, and click on home controller, and we will create one empty controller, and I will provide name employee name, and we will check. So you can see after creating the employee controller, the by default the index method is created automatically, and this is action. The by default every action inside the controller is a get. So these all are the points we have understand about the action method. So next is the type of action method. So there are two type of action method. First one is the action method, and second one is the non-action method. So we will understand by programmatically. So if go to the home controller, so this is an action method. So inside the controller all the public method inside the controller are as action method. So if you create the non-action method, so what we can do, we will create one non-action method. So private, return type is a string, and we can say print, and I will return some string. This is a non-action method. So this is a non-action method. So if you provide the private or protected access modifier, then it can be considered as a non-action method, and every public method inside the controller are called as an action method. How to restrict to an action method? So we can restrict the action method by using the non-action attribute. So let's go with the programmatically. So for example, this is an index method and this is a action method. So how can we restrict the action method? So by using non-action attribute, and non-action attribute is inherited from the action method selector attribute, and which is inside the system.web.muc namespace. And so the action method selector attribute is inherited from the attribute class, so which is inside the system.web.muc namespace, and this is a base class of non-action attribute. So first build our application, and we'll go with to execute the index method. So we have provided the non-action attribute. Then so if you try to access the index method, then it will throw an error. So we will copy and we will provide the URL and hit. So you can see the resource cannot be found. So we are trying to execute the index method and it will throw an error. So if you provide the non-action attribute, then it will considered as a non-action like the private or protected. So how to call an action method? So we can call by using the domain name, or we can using the domain name / controller name, and we can call by using the fully qualified URL username. So your domain name, controller name, and view name. How? So we can see localhost / home controller and index method. So we can call the parameterized index method by calling localhost / home / index /1. So we can also call the parameterized index method by using the query string like localhost / home / index $ID is equal to 1. So we can call the same as a query string for the string type of parameter like localhost / home / index $MSG is equal to text. So we will understand programmatically how we can call the index method. So different type of index method. So this has an default index method. So we will create one more index method. Public return type is a string, and we will say message, and I will pass the string as a name, and this is a message. So simply we will print one message, welcome, and we will simply say the name which we have provided. So one more method we will create for the integer parameter display, and I will provide the integer parameter ID, and I will simply return the message display ID is equal to, and I will provide the ID. So these are the three methods which we have created. First one is the index method without having any parameter. Second method, the return type is string, method name is a message, and which have which we have passing string as a parameter, and second one is the display method which having the id as a parameter. So these all are the three methods which we are going to access from the browser to understand the action method, how to call an action method. So first build the application, and after build is succeeded, so we will call, first we can call providing our domain name. So if you provide the domain name, so it will execute the default controller and default index method. So you can see welcome to programming with Sri, this is the default action method. So we can call also providing the fully qualified URL, our domain name, controller name and / index name. And how to call the parameterized index method, so we can call, for example, message is a parameterized index method, and we will provide the question mark name is equal to, so the name, so I will simply say Sri, and you can see welcome Sri. So how to call the integer parameter action method, so display is a method, or display /1, display is a method which having integer parameter. So we can say display id is equal to 1, we can pass any id, so you can see, and we can also pass this id by using the query string id is equal to, so we can see, right. So these all are the way to call an action method. So how to change the default action method, so to change and the default action method, what we can do, first we will remove, so we will change this message, so this is a default action method from home controller. So in order to change the default action method, so we need to also change the configuration settings. Go to the app_start folder and click on the route config.cs. So inside the route config.cs file, there are the route configuration related settings. So if you are new with the configuration settings, this ASP.NET MVC5 tutorial series, this will be help us to understand the configuration of routing. So inside the route config.cs, this provide the default configuration. So you can see controller is equal to home controller, this is the default controller, and action is the index action method. So instead of index, I want to execute the message index method default. So change the action method and build our application. Build succeeded, and so we can execute the default Yes, you can see this is a default action method from home controller. So you can execute by providing the URL, or you can directly execute by pressing the local IS here or F5. You can see how the default action get executed. So just we have went through this. So default action get executed from the route config.cs class, and inside this class there are some default configuration settings provided inside the route config.cs, and based on the configuration settings the default action get executed. So in this case the default action is a message default action method get executed inside the home controller. So and this register route method is called from the global.asa file. So if you go to the global.asa file, and in this, so you will find out the app_start method. So you can see inside the app_start, you can see here the route config dot register route.cs, and if you go to the right click and go to the definition, you will see this is a method inside the route config.cs class, and based on these configuration settings it will execute the default controller and default index method. That's all from the action method in ASP.NET MVC 5. So thanks for watching my video. Please subscribe my channel and add your valuable comment, that will be helpful to encourage me and create more and more video. So for more detail visit my technical blog www.programmingwithsri.com. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you.